There are days where I just want to come in and saw something because it's therapeutic to just be with my hands and working with the metal. And I find for the most part, when I make what I love, that tends to be the stuff that people also appreciate. And maybe it is because there's more passion behind those pieces than just knocking something out for the sake of knocking it out. I think I just like when I'm pushed outside my limits and it's not the same mundane things over and over again, when I have to set up something more challenging and find a solution for how to do it. I'm Kim, and I am a jewelry designer and metalsmith, and I also teach jewelry making and metalsmithing classes. Always loved the arts and being crafty, but I never really found my niche and what worked well for me. I cannot draw. My students laugh at that, and I can't paint and do any of those. So I think it has that technical aspect, and I'm very much a perfectionist, so you can really refine things, and I liked that. So you could be creative, but also just precise. And I think everybody thinks that artists are just naturally creative all the time, but that's not really the way that it works. And I know for a lot of artists, and I always felt that I was lacking somehow, because a lot of them will cite like, oh, I went out into nature and I was inspired, so I painted this, or I constructed this because of this view. And I don't really function that way. So for me, I think it's more the individual piece or technique that I'm working with. So if I have a stone, it's something within the stone that I just start going. And I don't tend to sketch much, so I don't prep my designs often. Sometimes I do. But usually I just start with the metal and work from there. And sometimes I'll start something and then like my bench is littered with half-started projects that are in progress and I haven't finished. And you'll put it away because you don't really know where to go with it from there and something isn't right. And then later on I'll look at it and have an idea or a thought pops up about that. So then I pick it back up again. And I'm not often like starting one piece from start to finish and creating. I usually have anywhere from 5 to 10 pieces on the go at a time. I have massive social anxiety, so bringing my work to the public with shows and stuff is incredibly intimidating for me. So basically like marketing and selling it, it's just very daunting. And I think some people excel at that and that's their thing. It's just not my thing. Yeah, it's a lot of work to try to get it out there. It's a lot of work to promote yourself, and I'm not generally a self-promoting person, so it's not a comfortable process for me, I guess. Learning to balance my own needs amidst the business needs was a really big learning curve. It's been difficult to try to make sure I do that because it doesn't end. And I think in, modern society, we have this idea that people are on contact 24/7 and you're always available and you're always working. So it's really hard to shut off when you're home or, I have a really few long days of teaching and I can't get to all my emails and I can't get to ordering and different things that I need to do. So then that kind of comes into my family time, which it can be frustrating. So it's trying to make sure I'm staying on top of things, but then also respecting boundaries and knowing that, no, I need some time off here. Sometimes it is that element of play and just experimenting with things. And I think being comfortable with failure, because oftentimes you think about a design or I'll sketch something, you put so much work into it and think this is going to be lovely and it comes out and it's awful and I just don't like it. The texture is a big thing for me. So I'm always looking to find a way to incorporate texture into everything that I do. This is part of my white and gold collection. So this ring is set in 14 karat yellow gold. It's a handmade tapered setting with the Montana sapphire. And then there's a whole bunch of gold balls as accents. This one's been a favorite, I think, because of the negative space in between. And it's got lots of texture. It's got a pattern imprinted all over the band. And then also a little bit of texture surrounding the gold balls for contrast. And then this is part of my black and gold collection. So this one, again, is really popular because of the contrast, I think. And it's got two London blue topazes set in 14 karat yellow with a nice big gold band to highlight it. And then it's also got a really fine texture imprinted, the same texture as the white and gold band, only this one's been patinaed black and then brushed and removed a little bit to highlight the texture on it. And this texture on both of these is roller printed. So it's just a fabric that's then pressed through the rolling mill to imprint it onto the sterling silver sheet. And it's a little bit more subtle. This is one of my gemstone pieces. It's also got like a little bit of chased texture on it, and then a little bit of a patina around and a brushed finish. And this one was it's a rhodochrosite stone, and I liked the contrast of the gray in with the pink, where it's typically a lot more pink, and the gray just kind of appealed to me, I guess. And then these are from my reticulated landscape series. These have been a really popular earring. So these ones, you raise the fine silver on sterling silver sheet, and then you just heat it until it starts to melt with pools of metal on top. And then you remove the heat and it crinkles. So it creates all these like peaks and valleys, which I think look like landscapes. I think the shape of them is nice. And again, I seem to have a theme with negative space. And they're sterling silver reticulated and then 14 karat yellow to contrast. I think the contrast and the texture is what appeals the most on these ones. They have a beautiful texture on them. My husband was in cancer treatment for all last year, actually, which was probably the biggest challenge I've had to overcome. So he went through chemo like all December of 2018 into 2019, the spring of 2019. So, and then he was in remission. I believe it was April or May, we found out, of 2019. I would say like during that entire year, I didn't create it all. I would kind of reproduce a few designs that I had been doing, and it was all I could do to teach and to keep up with that. So I think that part really died. You know, adds another difficult element to it because now I'm not fulfilling the part of the job that I really love and that I'm passionate about. So it just became a year of just like getting through everything. So then this fall semester started up, and I think this is when I realized like I'm just burnt out. Like we thought the summer would sort of be a healing aspect, but I think what we didn't realize and you weren't prepared for was the emotional and the mental aspect and the toll that takes. So I think the summer just became a lot of like making our peace with what happened, if you can make your peace with what happened. But I mean, I think the blessings that came out of that are it forced me to slow down a little bit, and it forced me to take a step back and say, I'm doing too much here and this isn't good for my health. And I think the community that I had built at the studio was such a positive encouragement. I had students bringing us meals and checking in on a regular basis, and just knowing that I could come here and it was a safe environment to unload the stuff that I was going through at the time, and there was no judgment. And at that point too, a lot of them had different challenges and struggles in their life. So it became just this environment of sharing and supporting and encouraging. And I think that, as much as it was difficult, was a really big blessing throughout the whole thing. I think I would have been lost to the abyss if I was at home all the time. This summer was the first time where I actually started to get back into it. And it's funny when it's been sitting stagnant for a while, and then you start to go, and all of a sudden, like the ideas did start coming out. And I did sort of have that proficient flow of ideas and stuff that I wanted to create, but it definitely took a bit to get my bearings and to get back at it. So I feel like I'm getting there slowly. And this fall was the first time that I've dedicated a full day for just me to work on my own designs, just create, and not trying to cram it into, I have this hour here or a couple hours here. So it's been really just beneficial, and I love having that time. I think you have to sit down and really get comfortable with yourself and assess what it is that you truly want, and have the courage to say, that's not for me, that's not my lifestyle. I would like to, I mean, I'm always looking to grow and expand it because it's gonna benefit me to reach more people, but not in an explosive way. Like, I want it to stay, I don't need fame. I don't need it to be huge. I don't want that, to be perfectly honest. I just want to have my comfortable output that I'm happy making and allows me to do what I really love. Yeah.